A political storm is brewing in Washington over the condition of the USS Abraham Lincoln, and U.S. Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth is now facing calls for his removal. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has accused Hegseth of being completely incompetent and demanded that he be fired immediately amid growing concerns over the welfare of sailors aboard the aircraft carrier. The controversy centers on the USS Abraham Lincoln, which has been deployed for an unusually long period and has spent more than 200 consecutive days without a port call. The carrier left San Diego in November 2025 for what was initially expected to be a roughly 7-month deployment. But after being redirected to the Middle East in January amid the U.S. conflict with Iran, the mission was extended. Reports have since raised concerns about conditions aboard the ship, including shortages of basic supplies, water and plumbing problems, delays in mail and care packages, and deteriorating morale among sailors. There have also been reports of serious mental health concerns. In one recent incident, a person went overboard from the Lincoln and was rescued. These reports have triggered growing alarm among lawmakers and families of service members. Schumer sharply criticized Hegseth in a post on X, saying that American sailors were paying the price for what he described as the Defence Secretary's incompetence, and insisting that Hegseth must be fired. But the criticism isn't coming from Schumer alone. California, Congressman Mike Levin and other lawmakers have demanded answers from the Pentagon and Navy leadership. They are questioning why reported unsanitary conditions were not addressed sooner, why sailors allegedly did not receive adequate mental health support, and why families and lawmakers were not informed about the problems earlier. Senator Richard Blumenthal has also called for greater transparency, asking the Pentagon to explain the repeated extensions of the Lincoln's deployment and how the Navy is monitoring fatigue, morale, mental health, and crew readiness. However, Hegseth strongly rejects the allegations. Speaking to reporters, he described reports of deteriorating conditions aboard the carrier as completely misrepresented.
Completely misrepresented. Listen, we make sure at every ship, every crew, every captain has everything we can provide them at every single moment. Some deployments are longer than others, and I have more respect and gratitude for those sailors than anybody. What they do in those high seas and those austere conditions with less port calls, it's incredible. I mean, Americans don't understand what it's like to do that. So as someone who's not been on a ship like that, but been on long deployments, I feel it. I want them home as soon as everybody else do. I want folks rotated as quickly as possible. I want the best for them. My commanders know that. Our service secretaries know that. The president expects that. And so to that crew and to all those crews, we're going to do everything we can for you. And we are so grateful for their dedication of that crew and others. They've held the line for the country, and they've done a fantastic job.
Hegseth defended the Navy's efforts, saying every ship and crew receives the supplies and support that can be provided during extended deployments. The U.S. Navy has also pushed back against several reports circulating about the Lincoln. The Navy specifically denied reports that 7 sailors had died following a fight aboard the carrier and disputed claims of a broader suicide crisis. At the same time, the Pentagon is preparing a major change. The USS George Washington is expected to replace the Abraham Lincoln in the Middle East. Officials say the carrier rotation was planned before the latest controversy, but the move comes as congressional scrutiny over the Lincoln's prolonged deployment intensifies. The situation highlights a much bigger challenge for the U.S. Navy. Aircraft carriers normally spend months deployed before returning for maintenance and allowing crews time ashore. But ongoing military operations in the Middle East are placing additional pressure on America's carrier fleet. The Abraham Lincoln's deployment follows the USS Gerald R. Ford's record-setting 326-day deployment raising questions about whether exceptionally long missions are becoming a recurring problem for the US Navy. For now, the political battle is escalating. Schumer is demanding Hegseth's removal. Lawmakers are demanding answers. Hegseth says the reports are being misrepresented, and thousands of sailors aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln remain at the center of the controversy. As the USS George Washington prepares to move toward the Middle East, Washington will now have to answer a crucial question. How long can the U.S. Navy keep its carriers at sea without putting the health, morale, and readiness of its sailors at risk? The answer could have major consequences for America's military strategy in the Middle East and beyond.
If you like this video, then like, share, and subscribe to Mirror Now.